The following is a presentation of Muddy River News.
Welcome to the Abbey, a Quincy tradition.
With 6 big screens, a new larger kitchen, and now more seating capacity, the Abbey is the place to be before, during, and after the big game. Come enjoy fan favorite Abbeytizers, steaks, burgers, and a variety of daily food and drink specials. Can't join us? Carryout is available too. Now with a convenient drive-up window to better serve you. 1736 Spring in Quincy. Opens at 3 p.m. Tuesday through Sunday.
Come join all your friends at the Abbey, a Quincy tradition.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Muddy. I'm Brittany Bull, and today my guest is the president of the Riverfront Development Corporation, Tieraney Craig. Thanks for being here, Tieraney. That's a mouthful.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so you made an announcement last week that we had a change of directions. You want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, so originally, the Riverfront Development Plan was laid out to where we would bury the electrical lines first. Mm-hmm. Obviously, COVID happened, prices skyrocketed, no shock, and kind of when we had budgeted for that, we had money from Ameren, from the state, from TIF, and the thought was it would be covered. It wasn't.
Yeah.
And so it was, do we raise money? Do we ask for more money from these entities? How do we go about this? And honestly, it just wasn't moving like we hoped, which was, okay. So we've kind of backpedaled and kind of just tucked that away for a little bit and moved on to an amphitheater project.
So a new direction. So that is tucked away. It still might be like in the works or in the plans, right?
Right. So there's a lot of question marks when it comes to the riverfront.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm like a big, obviously, elephant in the room. I'm huge into the riverfront development just because, one, I would like to see riverfront development happen.
Yeah.
And two, Cloud Adams Park is like seriously one of my favorite parks. I live right by there, so I'm there all the time, and it just, yeah.
It's beautiful.
It is.
It's a beautiful park.
And I understand that we're wanting to make it even more beautiful by adding to it.
Correct. So amidst all of this, when this was going on with the electrical lines, Laura from the Arts Council approached us and said, hey, I have this idea. Mm-hmm. What if we partnered together and we went after this specific grant to get an amphitheater? Actually, it's 2 grants, kind of one before the other.
What are those grants again? It was the I had that somewhere. Okay, so the Illinois Arts Council, you guys already acquired that grant, right?
Well, I think she's applied.
Oh, okay.
She's applied.
And that's a $50,000 grant for planning committee, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Planning kind of what it would look like, where it's at, doing the legwork on it, basically. And
is
then,
what that $50,000 goes towards.
That goes towards that. And then as long as that goes through okay, then the next step would be, I believe it's $2 million or so, to actually implement the plan. And
those are all grants that Laura Sievert thinks that she can probably acquire.
Yes.
She did acquire one, I think it was the historical site received the $1.5 million for the roofing.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And that's the same grant that she's applying for, the National Endowment for the Arts and Arts Placement for America or something like that.
Right.
Another mouthful.
Yeah, exactly.
But so she's successfully got one grant for the Historical Society.
Yes.
And now we're working.
And she's feeling pretty confident that this would be a great project that they would go for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really the amphitheater project doesn't interfere with the lines. It's in a point where there aren't any electrical lines, so there's no reason that project can't be bumped
Where's the
ahead.
amphitheater going?
So, and to add another little layer to it is where the city has part of their water treatment, there's a structure there.
Dome?
The big blue dome
is going to go down.
That is going to go down.
Okay, so would that be part of? Is the city's already scheduled to demolish that, right?
Correct. So I guess from what I understand, that has been in the plans for a while. It's either like a safety issue or something that for the water treatment that has to come down.
It's also ugly.
It's terribly ugly. Yeah. So the city, that's kind of the city's thing. So we actually have that $350,000 from the state, mm-hmm. and we're just going to kind of use that to start the project.
So you can go ahead. That's the grant that we've been referring to from Jill Tracy that you guys acquired. Congratulations too.
Yeah,
but did that have a expiration date on that?
Yes. So that one has to be kind of set in motion by April of this coming year.
And that's can then be placed from power lines to amphitheater, and that's why we're kind of trying to put that ball in motion.
We have to get approval. That has to be used for some sort of community riverfront kind of deal.
It has to be riverfront?
So we have to shift, I don't know if specifically if it was riverfront or community, but we have to kind of shift with them and speak with them to make sure it's okay.
Okay.
I can't imagine, when you get these different groups together working and then there's already commitment, money from the city doing this part, we have this, TIF money that hopefully the city council will approve. When you get all these entities working together, usually there's not too much of a problem when everybody has some skin involved.
Okay, backtrack real quick. You said the city has TIF money. Is it I know the city and county both pledged ARPA money. And the city pledged TIF money too?
Well, so they had put aside, it hadn't been approved yet, but it had been put aside $200,000 budgeted for the electrical lines.
By the city.
By the city. Now, city council does need to approve that still, but, that was set aside. So I think what we're going to do instead, it has to be approved by city council, but is to shift and move that money toward this project if it's needed. Again, we're kind of in just the preliminary
We're kind of also
thing.
thinking, though, that grants might cover this, right?
Correct.
Like, we're kind of hoping on the funding for these grants, which is, that is nice.
Right, exactly. So, there's a lot of moving pieces. We also need to talk to the Corps. There's a boat ramp there.
Yep.
So that, we're thinking of that as well as we're sitting around the
Corps,
table.
Donate that boat ramp. I was told the Corps donated the boat ramp to both. Half of it's the city, half of it's the park district, in order for both entities to take care of it.
Correct. I don't know I know that we have to speak with the city, the Corps, and the park
Corps,
district.
That's interesting.
I think yes. I think there has to be like an approval there.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah. So because I do believe they use that in high water situations. Mm-hmm. So there has to be some sort of other high water, ramp. From what I understand. So
would that amphitheater real quick, would that interfere in the ramp?
So
like what you said?
We can construct it. It isn't on the ramp. So, we can get started without that. But, in the back of our mind, as we're sitting around the table, we're also thinking about that because ideally in the plans, there's some terraced concrete steps that the public could sit on and enjoy, listening to the music and, kind of literally sitting on the water, which would be really cool. So as a group, we're thinking about that at the same time. But it doesn't have to be done at the same time. It can be, again.
Wait, what doesn't have to be done at the same time?
Like the stairs don't have to be done with the amphitheater. And,
Gotcha.
Within this, it's such a big project that there's so many parts.
It was a huge, huge project that was almost inconceivable, if you will. I guess a lot of the reason why I was a little with the power lines is, I'm not in construction, but some of the things with the burying of the power lines and the raising, we're looking at tunes of way more than what I was reading. It's that's a $70 million project to actually raise. I'm not in construction. I don't know, but I think somebody on the board is on, and
yes. So there are people sitting around the table that are wiser than I am with power lines, and that are wiser with than construction, and it's nice to have those people around the table to kind of guide us. But yeah, it's trying to figure out what parts. So, and with that, as a committee, we've started looking at raising money to hire a fundraiser or some sort of organization or somebody to go out and look for those grants, to look for private funds, to look for other places to get money because
is Laura, like you said, it was a partnership. Is she doing this voluntarily, or are we how does that work?
Yeah. So, I think that's just a partnership as part of the Arts Council would use that. Really the amphitheater, she and we see that as a community deal. The arts could use it. Fishing for Freedom could use it.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask. So we get the amphitheater, which awesome. That would be awesome. Who gets to use it?
Everyone. So there would be a fee. Scott Edlund has done these concerts, and he really wants to move them down to the riverfront. we would love to have him use that.
Would the committee then collect the fee? Is the committee the committee taking care of the amphitheater?
Well, so there's a whole nother layer to this. So, we're working, is this land Park District land? Is this the city's part? Is this, so I guess that's where as, 3 working bodies that we're going to have to figure out who's running the day-to-day operations, who's deciding, does the city, there's a lot of forms like when we close the street down. Are we running it like that where somebody submits their form?
So is the city running it? Is the Park District running it? Or is the Riverfront Development Committee running it? And then who collects the money? Biggest question, and that I'm going to ask this. Who's funding the maintenance after?
Exactly. Well, that's all part of it. So, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I like your honesty. Tieraney, that's awesome. Seriously, I am so for this. As long as, I guess my big passion is let's just not, I don't think we need to raise tax. I don't want to see it fall on the taxpayer dollars.
Right. And I think that's fair. I think, even as the president, I look at it and I'm like, I don't think the idea is to just burden the taxpayers with it. I think there's so much money out there, for grants. You look at the 6th Street deal. That was such a big grant that we were able to receive because we had a shovel-ready project. We have this plan. I think from a taxpayer standpoint, I really want to get someone involved, a grant writer or some sort of body that raises funds that knows what they're doing that can go after those dollars.
That would be awesome.
I just feel like that's let's hire somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yes. I do always think, though, when we talk about grants, and I hate, saying grants are great, but, they are still tax money. It falls back on your state taxes because you're getting these grants from the state. So, all grants are still loan taxes. So
100%.
I do feel I don't know.
100%.
It just seems like you ask for more, you need more.
It's just when it comes to that, it's like when we got the 6th Street grant, it was either, us or Chicago getting it or Champaign or somebody else. And
True.
It's if somebody's going to get it, I would rather be Quincy get it.
Yes, that's
get
a good
another.
point. That is a good point.
It's like if the money is already there, if they've already decided, hey, this is where the taxpayers' money's going, then I would rather Quincy see it than some other places.
I totally agree. It's just scary to me, I guess, when we see that. It's like the state giving us something and then we're going to have to pay for it later. The maintenance thing always scares me. I know that I wanted a great car. Yeah. Is what the biggest thing when I finally could afford to buy something outside of, grandma's used car or whatever. I wanted the best car, but then I don't know, I went with a Prius. Yeah. Because I knew that I couldn't afford the oil changes on a Corvette. So, I don't know.
There's the practicality and
but I like the practicality of this amphitheater. It sounds
and I think hopefully, the idea would be the business person in me says, oh, well, the money used for people using it, for us charging people to use it would help maintain it.
Okay. Yeah,
that would be my, knee-jerk reaction is, if you want to use it, then you need to help maintain it, sort of thing. But again, it is, we're looking, some of it's Park District, some of it's city. How does that work? The Park District had thrown out, well, we'll just donate it to you. But then I think that kind of went under the table, maybe not. So, but I think as we move the project along and things come closer, this amphitheater isn't going to happen quickly.
No.
You have to go through the one grant, and then once you get that, you have to go to the other grant, and then you have to go out to bid. It's all these things. It's not a quick thing. So I think as that's happening and it is coming to fruition, then, as the board, we're trying to bridge all the bodies and say, who we have to figure out the logistics of this before it happens.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's, you got put into, we were talking about this before. I know but you were put into a position that is a tough one because you have people like me or people like, whoever, just constantly asking you questions. And I think that we're hoping for, we're all hoping for the good things.
Yeah. And I think,
I guess I'm saying, sorry, I guess, for being so hard on you at times.
But I think it's fair. I think, we're, I think of, not that my husband's on this board, but we talk a lot about, we want people sitting on the board that are fiscally responsible and that, like, we pay a lot of taxes.
That know how money works.
Yeah, we need to be operating in the green.
Yes.
And that's just the bottom line. So, everything I just, when I look back, I want to make sure that, we're being responsible and that we're listening to all the voices. We do want everyone to be heard. I don't want just the naysayers in the back of our ears, but I do want to hear like the concerns and I do want to hear, what people, want first. The electrical lines, I realized, just hearing the public sentiment was, it's just maybe the timing isn't right. Maybe there's a different grant. Maybe, I just keep knocking on doors. Like I keep asking, what about Ameren or what about, and we'll just keep, seeing what we can find, what's out there. And, this project, the amphitheater, will just move ahead first, and that's okay.
I like that. Last question, and I'll let you get out of here. Sorry for making this so long.
Oh, that's okay.
But, okay, naysayer. Am I a naysayer
No.
Okay.
I think there's a difference between asking questions and, being a realist.
Or what about wanting other, like I said, I love Clyde Adams Park as it is. It kind of is scary to me to think that like a giant amphitheater is going to be in the park that I constantly walk my dog. But if it's for the good of the community and it's something that I'm going to probably enjoy too, I'm ready for change as well. But to say that somebody, I guess, I don't know, just because they don't agree with you is or we were all there, do you hate Quincy or you don't give a shit about Quincy if you don't agree or you don't support riverfront development?
I think it's okay to ask hard questions, and I think it's okay. Maybe you don't support I don't support this arm of what you're doing, or I don't support this. That's okay. I won't be offended by that.
That's what makes you a good president.
And I think everybody has to be held accountable,
yes.
To make sure that you're doing the right things. And I don't get offended by that. I think, sitting around the table and bringing everybody on board and hearing everybody's voices is a really good thing. And like even bringing Laura. Laura had some really great points. She was like, I'd really like some shade down there.
Yeah.
I would really like, just things like that.
I feel you on that.
Hearing, like when you bring all these people together and you hear, some really great ideas.
Good.
And I think there's
a lot of great minds at the table.
Yeah. And I think it's just having the people, that are going to listen and that really are going to dig deep to try to make things happen in a way that a lot of people
will enjoy too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for heading this feat. I know it's not an easy one. Yeah. And thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I hope you come back and give us more big announcements.
Yeah, no, I hope it won't be a fast project.
I know.
We'll definitely just keep moving.
Yeah. Keep moving forward. All right. Well, thank you, Tieraney.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Coming up next, we will have Coffee Talk. It's a special Coffee Talk. Ashley's not here, but Bobby is joining me with a special guest. Stay tuned.
Find furniture for the family room, bedroom, dining room, or home office. With new items arriving every week, discover furnishings and inspiration to create a better life at home. Harvey's Furniture, our home, your home.
Instant Replay is your local sports bar. With 18 big screen TVs, we have all the sports packages from college games to pro games. We offer daily drink specials, and come check out the Bullpen, our newly renovated beer garden. Instant Replay, 2739 Chestnut in Quincy.
Are you looking for the perfect venue for your next special event? Check out Utopia Event Center.
Utopia has a large banquet room and an awesome bar area, perfect for anything from birthday parties to formal corporate meetings. It also offers a photo booth, stage for a DJ or a live band, and a fully stocked bar, all for only $300. Check us out at utopiaeventcenter.com or call Barn at 217-430-6559 for more information. Utopia Event Center, 900 North 12th Street in Quincy.
The Liquor Booth is your home for a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits. The Liquor Booth has 2 locations in Quincy, 3520 Broadway and 1500 North 12th Street. The Liquor Booth, where it's always happy hour.
Welcome back to the Daily Muddy, and now it's time for Coffee Talk.
You did it. You did it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
good job.
today we have 2 special guests, I guess, for Coffee Talk. My partner,
guest?
Bobby. Yeah, you are a guest because you're filling in for Ashley. And then
house.
the guest of all guests that we needed, Mr. Bret Austin. He is the finance chair and the vice chair of the Adams County Board.
Correct.
Okay, so just to review real quick, our last couple of coffee talks, we've been talking about the lawyer shortage. And to clarify my last coffee talk, I think I was maybe sounding a lot more appalled at the fact that we had appointments of private attorneys being called up for this lawyer shortage at a rate of $125 an hour. And then we mentioned that that rate is even going to be raised in January to $150. And I guess to clarify, my question or whatever was, if we're paying private attorneys that amount of money, where are we at with our public defender attorneys?
The ones who are with the county,
Sure.
like if they're not full-time, but who are really with the county.
Right. So obviously the public defender has a set staff, and that's actually been grown by a couple positions over the last however long I've been on the board, 7 years or so. So they do have a staff. I believe it's 7. That was the total full-time staff that is budgeted for. So they still have that budget, and that still exists. And that was just, we approved the budget, and then this month will be the levy. But essentially, the budget is approved for having those 7 positions in the public defender's office.
And right now, the story was they don't have those 7. There's a shortage of public lawyer or public defender lawyers. They have right now currently 4, I believe, and then they have 1 juvenile lawyer that's separate. Correct. And they actually have a volunteer helping them out because she feels so bad. With that, the private public defenders that were appointed at $125 an hour. So that's a significant difference from, I found out, from the public defenders, what they make. Public defenders get paid on salary, and when you actually break it down, it's closer to $25 or $30 an hour.
Yeah, it depends, and that's if they just work a regular full-time job, which that job requires a lot of after-hours stuff.
You're not working 40 hours a week when you're a public defender.
We value them highly, but it is a position where you know that going in somewhat. Yeah. Prosecutor side, same way. I mean, there's no 2,080 hours a year that's defined. It's defined by results and the cases that you have in the caseload. So it's been a lot for them to handle.
It is defined by their results?
Well, no, their salary is not defined by the results. I just mean they work on the basis of getting those cases done.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Work till the job is done. Yeah. And I think the other thing is when you talk about that $125 an hour, that is obviously far less than a private attorney would make in private practice in most places.
It is. It is a cut down. I don't know what the average would be. I mean, you could research that, but I would say 120 or even 150 is below a retail hourly rate.
And then when you take that into consideration, also comparing just the fact that Quincy not only in dealing with the county side of it, with the defenders and you're talking about attorneys in general. We talk to people who own and run law firms here in town, and it's tough to get an attorney to come to Quincy.
Yeah, it is. There's a whole host of reasons for that. We can talk about that a little bit. I'm not a total expert in that. I'm a good expert, I think, in the financial side.
Yeah.
But we can talk about a few of those
because you don't hire the attorneys. You
Correct.
have the guy that runs the departments, the guy who hires the attorneys.
My methodology since I started as the finance chair has always been not to micromanage the departments. I feel like we set a budget lane, and that's our reality of what we do. And if you start getting into micromanaging, then, you either don't have the right person in the department, or you have people that are getting too far into the nuts and bolts of a department. I would prefer that we set a budget lane and that globally we stay in that budget and that the results get done.
So, okay, we're not stepping into micromanage is what you're saying, because so who would you, I guess you'd be micromanaging?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to tell the public defender exactly what to do with his staff or anything like that. I'm no expert in public defense law.
Okay, so is he asking the board for raises?
He did at budget time. Yeah, he did at budget time, and he has asked for those increased staff positions, including a clerical staff position over the last few years, which, you know, if the majority of the board feels that's valid, then that's what we voted for.
Where was that vote? Or can you say?
Well, it'd be reflected in the vote for the budget, so it's been pretty unanimous. I have
that they gave them raises or not? Because I mean,
did.
Okay,
Yeah.
Right now, obviously, that's the problem. I think with the shortage, there are a number of problems. It's no, elephant in the room. The mold thing is an issue, I think, of why some of our public defender attorneys have quit. But the biggest issue, I think, is pay, where we were talking about $25, $30 an hour in comparison to then you're just appointing private public defenders because we can't fill these positions. That almost entices the public defenders that we already have to quit, start their own private practice, and get paid 5 times the amount an hour at the county's.
Totally
Yeah.
agree.
But then
it's
the other
de-incentivizing.
Yes, I know. I don't think our public defenders would do that, because I think we have some pretty outstanding public defenders that do this primarily as a service for the county. I think is one of the biggest reasons, because why else would you? I know there are other incentives, like the county provides great insurance for them, and I think most public defenders start this off to pay off their copious amounts of student loans.
Agree.
But what other, I guess, like, how are we going to get more public defenders? Because this was we haven't announced that the public defenders have decided December 4th that they're going to start taking on more cases. So that strike, it wasn't a strike, but not taking on more cases has stopped, and we're not bringing on more public defenders. But that's just kind of like a mend, that just happened right now. What's going to happen in the future?
I think we'll be right back in the same place.
We're going to have to appoint.
Of course we will.
Okay,
yeah.
so then what about that no cap? Well, we were talked about, so these private public defenders have no cap on their.
Correct, yeah. It's dependent on the case, obviously, and some of them can run pretty high. That's why you maintain a state's attorney prosecutor side and you maintain a public defender side, is so that you can have a staff that deals with all of these cases, and on both sides of that equation. It's breaking that agreement a little bit, and it's been tough, and I think that all our state's attorney and our public defender have dealt with it as best they can.
Yeah.
But it's literally a change in the market, I guess you would say, if you can call it that. It's kind of like a privatized way of saying it, but I come at things like that a lot from a business side. It's different. It's changing those things because the inflationary aspect of what a person privately can make versus these jobs is becoming a disparity.
Are the public defenders are also allowed to practice on their own, right?
I don't think
No,
so. They
not
all,
no longer.
most of them
Not no
all have
longer. The
second
full-timers
jobs,
not
though.
anymore.
Not the
Yeah.
full
Most of them all have second jobs.
And it
Second jobs doing what?
A lot of them have second jobs. I know Chris Pratt has a job teaching at QU. I know Johnny Citro has a job teaching at QU.
Okay.
The only reason why I know this is because I'm a QU grad. But I know they both teach there. I think a couple other of them do things to supplement their income. So I guess, real quick, backtrack. The no cap, is that budgeted? How is that? I mean, that could go.
No.
We couldn't
possibly crystal ball for that?
Okay, no, but then but now we can crystal ball for the next one, because this is going to possibly happen again. When does the county board step in?
It's close. I think it has to be close, and we have to probably, the first level of stepping in is probably just having that communication where, again, like I said, I don't want to micromanage, but we obviously have to have a conversation about this situation quickly, because I think we can weather the storm with this round, but what's to say we could with the next round?
Yeah.
Because essentially what we're saying, you didn't ask this question directly, but I guess I would say it anyway. Essentially what we're saying is the budgeted amount for salaries is being used right now to hire private public defenders.
Well, I would think if there's no cap,
we've got to use that money first.
Yeah, plus, because you're also not fully staffed to the budgeted amount right
Correct.
now.
Yeah.
So you're paying that
out of what we had budgeted for the staff. And so for right now, okay, we're all right. And then when somebody does get hired, well, then they're only hired for a prorated amount of the year. So it hopefully would balance out. But at this burn rate, if you want to call it that, it won't last forever.
No. And it definitely, I mean, I'm not in finance and I'm not in law, but some of the private public defenders that you have are on some pretty heavy cases that are going to draw out probably a lot longer than, I think was budgeted or anticipated. So that's worrisome, I guess.
Is there a situation where the state steps in, where the state provides more on the public, more on the PD side, or no?
Good question. Not sure yet. There is those cases on the state's attorney side, on the prosecutorial side.
Right.
But not sure on the public defender side, something we need to research. Also, one thing I would point out is this is a very, very unique situation. County government is a big learning curve. It is convoluted, and so in this particular respect, don't forget the circuit court system is not the county. The circuit court system, although we may have the budgetary responsibilities for payroll and things like that, we don't necessarily get to have any authorization over who these private attorneys are that are hired.
So you don't get to, and you don't,
No.
What about recruiting actual public defender attorneys? That's under the chief public defender?
Yes, I mean in the sense that we would want him to recruit the best available people, and we've budgeted for that, and hopefully we can do better at that in the future. Yes, we have some measure of control of not who the person is, but the entire budget of the department, which then could kind of
So you could
make
possibly entice them a little
Correct.
bit more?
Correct.
Okay.
And I think that's important. But as a general rule, what happens inside the circuit clerk's office and the judge's area is independent of the county, and that's something a lot of people don't know. There's a circuit court system that operates as this whole little atmosphere inside the county government.
You just pay them.
Yes. Yes.
Quick question about the budget. It has something to do with it. The Safety Act, so the no cash bail, is that affected the budget?
Sure. Yeah, it will. It's going to be a little bit, we got to get a little bit in the rearview mirror to see how much, but it will. We had that discussion. I think we budgeted for at least flat, if not a little bit lower, if I remember right. It was at least flat. We don't expect to get more money. That came up in the budget discussion. A couple of the county board members asked that. I think that's a great question, but we're in year one. We just don't know yet. But it certainly will have an impact because we do have that.
So don't look for those raises, public defenders.
Well, they did get them They got them going into this year, though. The raises were on the front end, but for next year, it's going to be tough.
But there's still nothing comparable to private
not at
attorneys
all.
or even the state's prosecuting attorneys. Our budget's
There's a
higher
disparity
for them.
there, absolutely.
And we did add a clerical position and 2 attorney staff positions within the last 7 years. But
The prosecuting
public
or
defenders.
Defender. Okay.
Yeah, but it begs the question: why add the extra staff members if you can't find them to hire, right? So maybe it's a combination of pay and the staff positions. But if we're not using that total budget, it's possible that we could pay the existing staff more, and still stay within that total budget. And that's something that I would hope that the public defender's office, and including the public defender himself, will come to terms with how he wants to budget that. And we have no problem with him moving parts of the budget around that exist.
Right.
Okay. So there's opportunity there is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, hope so.
I like to hear that. More opportunity. Last question, since I have you at the table. You are the vice chairman of the Adams County Board, and it is all pretty well known that this is Kent Snyder's last term that he's serving.
Till November. Yeah.
Are there any plans to serve as the chairman of the Adams County Board in the future?
I'd like to.
Really?
Yeah, I would like to. I think every started as a rank and file member. I asked to be the finance chairman, and believe me, that's something that
heavy burden.
I would go back and think about long and hard. But
Why? Because I'm constantly calling you, asking you questions?
No, because you put yourself in a position where a lot is expected of you, especially when it's a pseudo-volunteer position. I mean, we do get paid a little bit, but certainly for the hours that we put in. I think anytime I try to do something, I try to, whether it was the district or I was on the Art Center board or other boards, I tried to be the person that moves up and end where I feel like I've tried to make a difference. So I'm not currently lobbying for the position, but if you're asking me the direct question, I believe I've put the work in, I hope I have the respect of the other county board members that they would see that.
All right. I like to hear that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
the
you
time.
guys.
Thanks for joining us
Yeah,
today.
appreciate it.
I guess that concludes this edition, this special edition of Ready Guys? Coffee Talk.
Muddy River News. Our home, our news.